I was never a big fan of Spider-Man, even when I was a kid. I did think the movies with Tobey Maguire were legit though. When I got my PS5 a year and a half ago, it came bundled with Miles Morales, which had been sitting on the floor collecting dust until about a week ago, when I finally opened it and gave it a try. Marvel has just not been my jam. I've criticized, like so many, the proliferation of comic book media, which has severely stunted movies, and is now looking to overtake video games. I'm very cynical about this, because the two should remain separate mediums. Video games should not be movies because of how pacing in time, as well as action, would be condensed and diluted by translation to a passive screen. Movies can be and often are video games, but the goal of a video game is to convey story through gameplay, discovery, and interactivity, rather than being extensions of stories already told, but with gameplay sections in between. But after playing Insomniac Spider-Man and Miles, I'm ready to sign up for Spider-Man 2. This shit made me feel like Spider-Man, an IGN reference I'm sure you know. In 2018, I got to play a little of the game and thought it was rather generic based on the low quality game share stream and my cynical attitude toward Insomniac. I was upset at Insomniac, one of the best in the business, for making a game I thought that anyone else could have made. I remember playing Spider-Man on the PlayStation 2, so I knew it had been done before. Why not offload the obligatory Spider-Man to a lesser talented studio and let Insomniac get back to making games that only they can make? As it turns out, Insomniac might have just made the spectacular Spider-Man game that only they can make, perhaps one of the best action-adventure games of the past decade. Ever since Into the Spider-Verse a few years ago, Spider-Man has been living up to the memes with all these damn look-alike Spider-Men.
Not the real Spider-Man! You miss a chance to team up with the real Spider-Man?
The real Spider-Man.
New York's only Spider-Man.
I'm Spider-Man!
Spider Cop.
This sexy spider girl of the Goliath bird-eating spider.
I actually saw Into the Spider-Verse when it came out, and I was surprised to find that I enjoyed it just like I did these games. I thought that Miles meshed well with the many Peter clones. No doubt Sony is going to milk this duo going forward, and they seem to be right to do so, as there's a lot of fun to be had with them teaming up. Peter is still more charming as Spider-Man as he binds together the greater mythology spun by Stan Lee, and particularly due to the fantastic dialogue and humor conveyed by veteran voice actor Yuri Lowenthal. The man is 50 years old, but he's out lapping the youngsters, bringing as much enthusiasm as one could bring to this type of role under these conditions, especially with the awkward makeover they gave the character and remastered. Regardless of Yuri's Spider-Man being a voice-only role, he provides one of the most likable and best portrayals of Spider-Man since Tobey. Lowenthal has great chemistry with every actor that appears in the game, including his wife, who voices a police chief, coincidentally named Yuri, and Laura Bailey, who is quickly becoming one of my favorites, as the laid-back, on-and-off-again girlfriend, Mary Jane. Peter still carries the burden of catching the most iconic villains of the franchise, and the way they integrated the origin stories of Pete and Otto makes for a compelling twisted film version. I thought that I'd rather go back and watch the movie instead, which is still probably true, but the way this game looks and feels with these state-of-the-art graphics and the ability to web-sling away is something amazing on its own. I started by playing Miles Morales, and I was interested right away. Miles is a newcomer to the franchise, but he fits into the old formula well. Both games cut out much of the backstory, which is good for pacing and tone, especially since most of us know about the radioactive spiders already. But there's an awesome, funny scene in the epilogue of the mainline Spider-Man game that shows Miles and Peter forming their alliance, and that is enough to hype up another chapter of their story. The thing with the mild-mannered Miles is that he's still green being the hero, and honestly, his game feels like more of an origin story DLC than a full-fledged game. Luckily, the game comes bundled with Spider-Man Remastered, so I think the price is justifiable. Most of the abilities on offer are just inherited from the original game, with a few tweaks, like invisibility, being something that seems to be exclusive to Miles going forward. Other than this fact, Miles functions so far almost identical to Peter. In Miles' world, he has the same motivations as the OG Spider-Man, to honor his fallen family by avenging the living. There are some well-written and engaging characters in this Miles storyline, and I like the performances from the actors, including this up-and-coming Griffin kid that plays Miles' best friend, the actress that plays Miles' other friend and nemesis, and that Troy Baker, who's good in just about everything he does as the game's cookie-cutter central antagonist. Spider-Man's combat is usually the strong suit of the games. Fighting as Spider-Man evokes all the classic comic book action, with bam, pow, boom, flying swoops, uppercuts, dive moves, roundhouse kicks, web slingers, picking up objects, spinning like a windmill and hurling them at the thugs in question is satisfying, as is pulling off a finisher by building up hit combos and using the special Spidey gadgets that honestly feel like something Batman should be using. But I guess they make sense because A, they're fun, and B, Peter and Miles are pretty smart in these games. I think they could definitely add more combos to the square button, because for the moment all it does is the same punch 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 combo, which would get repetitive quickly if the combat wasn't so choreographed. The stealth sections can go away almost entirely for the next installment. There was one section playing as MJ where she distracts enemies and directs Peter to take them out one at a time, which was engaging and close to being suspenseful. Every other stealth section is tedious and just breaks up the momentum of web slinging. I expected Spider-Man to be style over substance, but thanks to a good script with balanced humor and maturity, and state-of-the-art web-slinging features, I can call Spider-Man a good game. 8 out of 10. But it's not quite amazing or spectacular, as they'd have you believe. Individual elements and moments are on the level of amazing, but as a whole, this is not the best work Insomniac can do. One of the weaknesses in these games is that Insomniac falls into the usual pit traps of open world design, padding the map with collectible hunts and on-the-rails side missions that start to get repetitive from the jump. The narrative writing is pretty strong though for the main missions, and the cutscenes are rendered live with some of the most photorealistic animations to date. The fact that Spider-Man 2 will be getting a full dev cycle specifically for PS5 hardware, and I guess PS4 since Sony doesn't believe in generations, means that the next entry in this game franchise could be unlike anything we've ever seen on a technical level. I still think Insomniac could be going back to its roots, putting its talents to better usage, doing something original like Resistance, a much neglected, but not forgotten, essential. Why Ratchet is still getting sequels in 2021, but there's no generation-defining FPS is beyond me. Spider-Man is a given though, and it isn't going away anytime soon, and I think new fans and old fans will be pleased with the adaptations. If it's going to be Spider-Man and Wolverine for now, Insomniac has shown that with great power, they have great responsibility.
To use our talents in the service of others, even if they don't appreciate it.
Spider-Man! Spider-Man! Man, where you hiding?
With impunity. But Spider-Man is not your ordinary run-of-the-mill menace. Oh, he's a 12th level Kung Fu master, 50 moves ahead menace, which is why I think he's actually